Everybody's going to hate this when I say it, but debt can be really good. I'm going to give you a couple examples. This is Paul Morrow, obviously, Smart Financial, and you can click on the little link, subscribe. This is going to be one of our shorter videos, like maybe 7 to 8 minutes. And so we won't break it up in 2 or 3, but I do want to hit a topic that's really big, which is borrowing against an asset. Now, an asset can be real estate. It can be a portfolio. It can even be, lately in the RV world, people are buying, $100,000 RVs and then doing a lease back and leasing them out. Really, debt can be either constructive or destructive. Destructive debt is borrowing against something that produces no income and goes down in value, like credit card debt, the worst, okay? However, constructive debt or leverage, I'll show you, can actually increase your rate of return, and it can be very useful in wealth building. Now, if you want more information about these things, remember you can just give us a comment on the links below, get a free copy of one of my 3 books on either wealth building, longevity, or grandparenting. And leverage plays a part in all those things. There is no great company in America, actually, that has zero debt. I mean, it's very rare. But let's just talk about how these things can work for you in your real life. And I'll give you an example. In my practice over the last 50 years, we've had a lot of people who've actually done exactly what I'm going to show you now, which is part of their wealth building process. And most typically, it's with a piece of rental real estate, whether it's, at $1 million today for an asset in the greater Boston area, you might get, a duplex or maybe a triplex. In other parts of the country, I know that we do investing around the United States, and you can see that $1 million might buy you 2 or 3 homes in the Ohio area, right, that you can rent. So an asset like real estate, it's very common to use leverage to acquire a bigger asset than you could buy in cash. But let's just use this example, $1 million asset and $1 million paid in cash. So how do you actually value the rate of return? Well, it's very simple. It's the net operating income. How much net you get out of that piece of property, that portfolio, that RV rental, whatever, after you paid all the expenses. In this example, let's just use a $100,000 property that generates, $1 million property that generates $100,000 of net operating income. Well, pretty easy to add that up in your head. Looks to me like it's a 10% rate of return. I'm not talking about appreciation yet. We're not talking about the value of an asset that might go up in value. Let's just talk about income first, just income. All right, so if you have $1 million laying around and you put that money into that real estate, that's a pretty good rate of return, and it might be a nice, safe place to park your money. But let's say you happen to be a person who wants to use some leverage so that you can put in less cash. So in my second example, it's the same asset, $500,000 of cash and $500,000 of debt. And let's use it's August 2025. Let's use 8% as the debt cost. That means that if you borrow $500,000, you're going to pay $40,000 in debt service, loan payments, okay? 8% per year, okay? And I think on investment real estate, that's not unusual. So if you have a $100,000 gross income, let's figure out what the net income is. After paying $40,000, your net income is now $60,000 on a $500,000 investment. What does that come out to? Instead of a 10% rate of return, that's 12%. We should put that in green, because that's green is for money. All right, so let's grab that green marker and let's just see what we did. We went from a 10% rate of return to a 12% rate of return by borrowing money. Now, in the real estate world, actually 50% loan to value for certain pieces of real estate is typical. However, if you're a very good credit customer, and you've probably seen this in buying real estate yourself, you could get away with only 20% down. So out of a $1 million asset, you might only have $200,000 in cash and $800,000 in debt. Let's see what happens. If you borrow $800,000 at 8%, you're going to have a $64,000 debt service cost. So let's figure this out again. Now you've only got $200,000 of your money in there. And you're losing out of your $100,000, $64,000. So you end up with a net of $36,000 in income. However, you've only got $200,000 of your money in there. So to do the rate of return on $200,000, if you're making 36%, this comes out to be an 18% rate of return. So by using debt, you can go from a 10% rate of return to a 12 to 18%. Now, this is not high-level math. This is not high-level investment talk. I'm not suggesting that you go out and you do this without consulting with and take the advice of your personal financial advisor, your CPA, whatever. This is just the understanding that debt can be good. Debt can be useful. Debt can be constructive. So when you're considering whether it's margining your portfolio, whether it's buying maybe a little bigger RV than you can afford in cash and doing what's called a lease back with the dealer, letting them lease it out for $500 a night, which is very typical nowadays for RVs, right? Or if you're looking at buying wealth building real estate and you're going to put down 20% and you're going to make some net cash flow, but you're also going to potentially make some appreciation. This is just one part of wealth building. This asset can be anything that produces income. It could be a business. It could be a commercial real estate property. It's not a healthy way to think of your personal assets. Leverage on cars is kind of destructive. Leverage for credit cards is destructive. Certainly consumer loans are destructive. So we want you to stay away from those debts, but there are debts that can be good, right? So debt has a place in wealth building. And as I'll show you in one of our follow-up videos, it actually has a great place to play in multi-generational asset transfers. So we're going to do that next. And to follow along with us to see how debt can actually help grandparents enrich grandchildren and create multi-generational wealth transfers, you can just subscribe to the channel, follow us along. And if you are a person who wants more personalized information, you can reach out, park a question in the comments below. We're happy to answer as many questions as we can. And for a free copy of our book, the 3 books that are on Amazon, you can go there, you can download them for free, right? Or you can attend one of our in-person conferences, and I will actually be signing books in New England in fall of 2025. So debt can be a good thing. So don't be afraid of it. I know there's a lot of people out there that are anti-debt, but debt can be a very valuable wealth building tool if you use properly, but it's like a handgun. You can hurt yourself. Using debt properly is just part of the art of being smart.